On today's episode of Dyad and the Force, we're going to be talking with At Chat about the state of Star Wars YouTube, and we're also going to be going over some of our favorite and not so favorite duels. This is Dyad and the Force.
Hello, thanks for joining us in this episode of Dyad and the Force. I am your host, Darth Choco.
And I'm Element.
And I am Nick of the At Chat. What's up, guys?
What's up?
Happy to have you on because
it's awesome.
I've been
to be
following
here.
You for a while.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a fun journey, experiencing the ocean of Star Wars YouTube.
Yeah, it's for some of us, it has been years of dealing with it. But you know, when you've been on
longer than I have for sure.
Well, yeah,
or at least dealing with it. Yeah.
And I like to point this out to people who watch Star Wars Theory in particular. You know, I saw a video of him with a lot of people around him in a live stream talking about it's hard to find someone who likes The Last Jedi. And although my channel is small, my positive review has been there since the movie came out. And so, like, we're right here. Mm-hmm. If you need someone that likes the sequels, we're here. I mean, you don't have to search far and wide. And so Choco and I, when we started TikTok and we started, you know, just trying to spread the joy of Star Wars and share our knowledge of it, you know, we were encountering a lot of toxicity, a lot of negativity and resistance to our cause. And Choco turned me on to your channel on YouTube, and it's just a breath of fresh air. You know, I love what you do, and that throne room fight analysis, like, you don't know how many times Choco and I in particular had to, you know, address that fight, but it's been a long road, man.
Well, you know what? I'm really happy that people like those videos, because it's like you post those and they're just opinion pieces for the most part, but like, to me, they're good. Like these things that I'm saying, like, I firmly believe that this is good quality Star Wars stuff. And then you get these comments that are insane. And they're like, how could you like this? This is blasphemy. You're a fake fan. And it's like, whoa, I'm just talking about something that I like. And it's like, it just turns into something else. It's insane. So it's cool hearing that the video was, you know, well received by you guys.
Yeah. And then
it's definitely my favorite duel, hands down, I think.
For sure. And then that turned into just me subscribing and watching all of your other videos, and it's just the quality is there, the accuracy is there, and it's just, I enjoy any kind of content that talks about Star Wars, like as we were talking about in our kind of like pre-recording hubbub. Just so many people obsessed about like retconning the sequels, and we'll cover it more in depth when we get to that segment of the show, but it's just there's so much out there that is negative, and you'll find out if you download TikTok, and Choco can elaborate further on this. Like, we do have a positive Star Wars community, and we're building it slowly, but there are holdouts, you know.
Yeah, I feel like wherever you are in social media, there's always going to be a pocket that's like ready to pounce. Like, how dare you say something good, you know? So as long as there are groups of positive people, you know, eventually I think down the line, these movies aren't going to be so hostilely looked upon, I guess. I don't know.
And it's, I mean, it goes back and forth, but I mean, the thing that we try to really do in our community is, like I said, we just want to enjoy talking about Star Wars, exactly. Whether you like things or don't like things. There are, personally, I don't like Episode 9, and that's okay.
Yeah.
The things I don't like don't live in my head rent-free 100% of the time, and you know, it's not the majority of what I talk about. And also, I also don't lose the ability to understand what's happening.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, you don't let the crap like absorb what you want to talk about. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. But one of my favorite things in Star Wars are these lightsaber battles. I mean, I got into Star Wars watching an old VHS tape of The Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
Over and over and over again. And so my favorite duel has always been Luke and Vader on Cloud City. And I think for me, it's because of what I try to write. I'm not great at it, but I love writing and I love storytelling. And
nice. Yeah, I'm a terrible writer, so I think so.
Well, I mean, that's exactly what a fight scene is in one of these films. It's a storytelling device. It's not necessarily a showcase of martial prowess. We have these, specifically this fight, we have these two combatants. One of them's clearly not ready, but what this does to the story and how it moves it forward and moves the characters, this is when you have been boiling information and it hits ahead, and then the conflicts happen, and then we move on to what comes next. But I'm curious, because you have a lot of awesome fight analysis. What makes a good fight, or what makes a great duel in these films?
It's I feel like I have to start with audio. I think like if I'm thinking back to like my first time watching Star Wars, like you brought up the VHS, probably Return of the Jedi. Yeah, Return of the Jedi was the first Star Wars film I saw, oddly. That was my introduction. And the reason I was drawn was because of the sound design of a saber. So like to me, the epic over the top sound design of a saber is, as long as it's like really there, first of all, like the audio of that is key. Like without that like quality of an oomph of the zoom, zoom, like that kind of thing, I don't care. Like it's not going to grab me even if it looks good. It just needs to be so loud. And the prequels do it so well. The prequel lightsabers are so loud. It's unbelievable. And like if people dog on those, and I'm like, maybe one or two are goofy, but like I just love how they sound. But for ESB, when I broke that down, for me was like how the lightsaber duels almost encompass what the movie's theme is about. And if it can do that in the duel, then it's a good duel, primarily, I think. And like the ones that stick out to me the most do that, like the best ones, like Duel of the Fates, harkens back to like the fate of Anakin there in like the Last Jedi, the throne room. The whole movie's been teasing their connection. Now they're dueling together against the Praetorian Guard, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is like insane. So I guess if it's pulled off, like a couple duels in 9 make no sense to me, because it doesn't have that. And I hate to say it, but like they're cool to look at, but that's like about it. But I feel like a duel, for it to be good at its core, it just has to really embody what the whole movie is about in the duel. Hopefully that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. I've never thought about it that way, and it's blowing my mind, and I'm like thinking of the ramifications.
Well, think of ESB, right? Like all of Empire, the most interesting thing about Empire is like the B story of like with Han and Leia is them being like cat and mouse chased, and then Luke is the cat and mouse with Vader in the duel. Yeah. Right. So it's like he replays the beats of them being the cat and mouse of the Empire, but now it's just him and Vader. It's like so insane.
Plus you have Luke, who this whole time is anxious to learn how to go kill.
Right. Yeah.
That's all he wants. And that's exactly how he dives into that fight.
Yeah, he's first to ignite the blade. Is he first? I'm trying to think. Or no, he's first to attack.
Yeah, he was first to attack. I don't think he was first to ignite it, but also, how the film really starts out with the big action set piece and then slowly gets smaller, more intimate, and then that fight does the same exact thing. It starts with this big open room and a smaller room, and then
it's great that there's no music too. It's just atmosphere. It's so good. It's like a horror movie.
You're absolutely right about the sound too. The thing that jumps out at me the most with sound is actually like the lightsabers clashing. Like, just, I don't know, it's so crisp. It's so like impactful when the lightsabers hit each other, and more so than the whooshes and the sound of it activating. Like, you get this tactile feedback almost in your chair when you're watching it, and the two lightsabers clash with each other, and it just goes, you know, it's like, it's such a great
alien
sound.
but so interesting. And that's kind of why maybe I was obsessed with it as like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell is this stuff? Like, lightsaber sounds, and like, I don't know. It's still mesmerizing. Like, some guy just figured out how to make that sound.
I don't.
How do you do that? I don't know. That guy did it. So
that, and it's lasers, like just like a steady laser sword. That's the gist of it.
It's more than enough.
And
somebody like finally invented that, like, again in like real life, like not a couple months ago.
I did see that the plasma saber. Yeah,
we're getting there.
We'll be there shortly. NASA just, I think, found a rare metal asteroid that's worth 70,000 times the worth of the global economy, and I'm just like, did we just possibly find a source of kyber crystals?
Oh my god.
We're getting
an idea.
You know, and
that'd be amazing.
And also the music.
Me go like, do you? I mean, that's like the precursor to Wakanda, but
oh, that's also true, yeah. And also the music too. You're right. Like, I think one of my favorite things about the Death Star 2 duel is the presence of no music, and that's kind of how ESB starts in Bespin, where you're relegated to the sounds of their duel and their shuffling and their emotions, and nothing is holding your hand through this narrative. Like, sometimes you have scenes in Star Wars where the music carries you through that journey, and then sometimes you have a duel where the emotion and the impact of these two people dueling is what carries the journey for you versus the music. And so I think being selective with when you insert music and when you don't have music is also what makes a lightsaber duel great.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way Star Wars would be nearly as successful as it has been without John Williams.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, totally. I can't imagine what Star Wars would be without John Williams.
Well, think about anything, you know, that takes place in space from that era. It was all like synth stuff. It would be so weird feeling. But, you know, Empire Strikes Back, to which I keep coming back to, and I apologize. There's no music or anything until
the turning point where, the music happens once he starts using telekinesis.
Yeah, it's specifically right when both of his hands go on the lightsaber, both of his hands go on, and you're like, oh, he's done playing. Okay. Then Empire Strikes Back, there's no music until Vader threatens Leia, and then you start to get that little swell that's going on.
Oh, Return of the Jedi?
Return of the Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
And how they've always done that. I mean, the place I feel that the most is actually the pod race in episode 1, because there's no music until the tail end of the third lap.
Underrated scene. Too many people talking that, and I watched that, and I'm still like, oh, I feel like I'm 12 years old again. Like, yes, just nonstop engine noises.
It's great that you point that out.
We have the exact opposite with Phantom Menace, like with the score starting right when he ignites both blades.
Yeah, you know what? I think that was a result of us not knowing who that guy is, right? So we don't have any kind of emotional attachment to this duel. Whereas if we're watching Luke and this monolith Vader clashing for the first time, you're kind of just, you want to let the emotions swell with them. And with Maul, it's like almost an intro where you just have to give him his entrance music.
Yeah, to pair it off that too, it's like, this is the first big duel of like the primetime Jedi. So if they don't have a backing track that like is gonna blow your mind, what is the point of what's about to unfold? Like he just slaps you in the face with that choir. Just the door opens and you're like, oh my god, I'm not ready. It's so good.
And the dialogue too from Natalie Portman at the start of that, and like, yeah, we're gonna leave.
Yeah. There's a Sith Lord. She's like, all right, see you guys.
you got this, right? You guys got okay.
Yeah,
Let's go.
good.
So on that same token, what's a negative? Like what's bad? So I think we can like kind of set up what makes fights good, what makes them bad, and then kind of go through, I guess our top 3 or top 5, something like that. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
I mean, however you guys want to do it. It's hard for me to pinpoint like such a specific kind of thing. It's more of how it. If something makes me go, ugh, that looks bizarre, or like this looks weird, that to me is just the inherent badness of it. And the only thing that like comes to mind, to be honest, like the duel that makes me go, Jesus Christ, like, oh, what is this? It's just the intro to Palpatine taking out 3 Jedi before Mace Windu. Mace Windu's like, it just. I have no problem with that, and like the final duel with Palpatine's great with them and Yoda, but like there's just something about the way that duel unfolds. Like it could be the static camera movement, maybe like maybe no movement in the camera is a problem with that scene. So have
you read the Matthew Stover novelization? Like the way they explain that fight in the novelization is incredible in my opinion.
But it's it's an interesting ability, but it had to be made, right, to make sense of it. Kind of, it's kind of like I don't want to say like retconning, but like it allowed the fans to be like, all right, that's how he did it, because like those are 4 primetime Jedi.
So most of like I like to think that there's no inherently bad duel, but there are fights in all of the films that were cut horribly, and that is one of them, because of course we have the lore explanation. Oh, it's a Force scream, he paralyzed them and took them out in a blur of speed, but of course that's not what it looked like. It looked like he twirled in the air and then everyone died.
Yeah, like the weight of the moment, so the narrative impact was like, if the narrative impact or the intent of this moment of the duel or whatever is to be like, holy crap, the power of who, like person X blew me away and I couldn't believe this, like you've succeeded. But if it's like if it just happens and you just feel like that happened, and it I don't know, like that's kind of like what that part made me feel. And you were talking about production value.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that's exactly why, because it just kind of is blocked weird. And the camera's really classic. Like it's like a classic 50s setup where it's like a medium lens, and like they just kind of do their thing real quick. And it's like theater in front of a camera. So maybe a camera needs to be a little bit more dynamic.
And it may be controversial for me to say, and all the respect to Ian McDiarmid, but the close-ups they choose,
oh my God,
and the facial expressions that he selects. Yes.
I hope that you pop some of those up.
I will. But yeah, they just, of course you have to show the face, right? You can't just leave it up to the stunt double, or you can't like do that. You have to
put a mask. Oh my God.
Yeah. You have to give the audience, you have to give an audience like the presence of that actor at some point. So give them the close-ups. But man, the ones that they chose of him, like in the facial expressions that Ian is doing, it really like it brings you out of that fight, because he's making such really ridiculous faces.
Yeah. He did redeem himself though, I think, with Yoda in my head.
Yes.
From that fight. And in the Clone Wars animated series. I don't know if you guys are fans, but definitely. That duel with Savage and in Maul. Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine if that was live action and like in today's production or something. That'd be insane.
Yeah, we got halfway there with Maul and Ahsoka. That was like mocapped. That's halfway to live action.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, that's a great duel. I totally forgot about that.
It's really good. No, what the thing that jumps into my mind is, I mean, like you guys were saying, to show the facial expressions, and I know we're kind of talking about what kind of pulls us out of fights, but I have to. That's what I gave the most props to The Last Jedi for, is that throne room fight.
Yes,
it'll be one shot where it's an action scene and then it zooms in on Kylo Ren's face, and you see the struggle in his face, and it zooms out and the action is still going, and then it pans and Daisy Ridley is in action, and then it zooms on her face and it's one shot, and you're like, I don't even know how you do this. Like, how do you? It's
really good. Like, people, I don't know why. I will forever be confused why people find that particular duel troublesome, because I really looked at it from like an editing perspective when I was breaking down that duel, because the reason I really like that duel is because it's so laid back with its editing.
Yeah.
And like I've gotten comments where that's saying that it was over edited, and I'm like, are you okay? Because like this, like Ryan Johnson and Steve Yedlin I can't even speak English, specifically like wanted to achieve like old school, like 80s 90s in camera action with the actors, and he like said like Jackie Chan style, and I'm like, okay, that totally makes sense. So he's just like moving the camera around as everything unfolds, and then you don't have to worry about stunt doubles. Like you get them to actually do it in front of the camera, and it's like there's like 33 cuts in that entire edit, in that entire battle, because like you said, he's just moving the camera around, and it's like it never ends. Like the whole thing is happening. You never feel like something isn't happening on the other side of the screen. You just know, and then it goes there, and you're like, oh my god. So I don't know. It's so good.
Which means both of them are fighting, like while they're filming it at the same time, knowing that only one of them's going to be on camera at that moment, but you're still got to sell this whole thing because it's just going to bounce in and out. And that's, and I contrast this with the ones that I have the trouble with are anytime Dooku fights.
Oh, interesting.
And I say that because, so for instance, in my opinion, the one that has the most difficult choreography for me to really, stomach is in Attack the Clones, that Dooku fight. Like you have this whole scene where all it is their faces, and they're just like spinning the lightsaber, and it just feels really like a really weird shot.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't
I can see what you mean. I'm like I'll use the word. I'm like a shill for that scene.
Although he does redeem himself in Revenge of the Sith on the invisible hand.
Yeah, a bit, but I will. So the portion of that fight where Anakin gets his arm cut off, I think is next to the three Jedis being cut down instantly. Probably choreography, because he just stops fighting and he just goes like this.
Yeah, and the explanation created for it is the same kind of thing where they're like, oh, you force froze him for a second, but it's like, did he? I can't tell. It looks like he looks like he was like, come on, Dooku, do it. You won't. But yeah, no, I agree with some of the criticism of that movie's duels. But I did like, the reason I liked the over the head thing is because that was like one of the first times in a Star Wars movie that the lightsaber light like interacted with a human. Like instead of it just being like a effect, it was so weird looking in the movies. Like if you watch it, it's like strobe lights are going around them, which is just kind of funny. But it was cool, like to me too, that they finally went like deep in the kendo thing, they're like, all right, we're doing it. Like, we're just gonna like, they don't really do the kendo because like they don't like do like the one quick attack and then like whatever.
Yeah.
But they're at least embracing some of the stances finally, like in a way that people would notice too. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But for me, like him and Yoda, that's like the one where it falls apart a little bit for me. And you know, acting against a tennis ball, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever was there. Who knows? They're just like swing the blade, and like George Lucas is like faster, more intense, please. Yeah.
Surprisingly, that duel went rather well, though. I mean, of course, if we're thinking about Dooku's performance or Christopher Lee's performance, yeah, it's
He's trained too.
You're fighting a tennis ball, right?
Yeah, he knows how to fight tennis balls. Actually, he was but yeah, he was actually trained. I think he's a trained swordsman from what I get.
Yeah, you know, he like he's the most experienced there, and like
a fencer.
I think that's
right?
why they even invented Form 2 or whatever, because they were like, well, he used this gesture, which is like an opening fence gesture thing, and they're like, all right, so now we have to make this something that's real, which I think is fascinating.
Also, like his lightsaber hilt is reminiscent of Charlemagne, who he's a direct descendant from, like in real life. So that's
interesting.
There's a lot of cool stuff, but I just point out like just some odd thing, but those things don't ruin the fight for me, you know? Like watching the fight on Invisible Hand, I can clearly see like he does a weird kind of back kick that doesn't make contact, that sends people flying. Like the thing also when he brings the awning or whatever you call it down on
and it
Obi-Wan.
doesn't completely sever his body in half. I always think about that. Sometimes in the middle of the night I'll wake up in like a cold sweat and I'm like, yo, how did he not get cut in half? My wife's just like, I can't believe I'm married to you. It's a big fight that happens. So
it's better than me, who is just constantly quoting things that my wife hasn't seen. And she's like, I don't know. It's like, I don't even want you to see it. It's way funnier for me this way. But my point is, I'm not trying to hate on these fights or be negative, but I'm very cognizant of the issues in the fight. I understand, it's important that Anakin lost and he lost his arm, like obviously,
right.
It did look kind of funky, and there's even small things like, for some reason, Palpatine has Anakin's hilt when he's fighting Mace Windu, and I'm like,
oh yeah, that's true. I remember. I don't know who pointed that out to me. I don't know if it was my friend or like the internet somewhere. That's so funny. I totally forgot about that fact.
There's that, and like Anakin out and Obi-Wan switch lightsabers, at one point. And their battle, and there's all types of little errors, and my thing is, those little things don't make or break the fight. It's the storytelling aspect, and is what happens here take me out of the story? Am I unable to follow the story because a section was cut out or something like that? And that's
right.
And that's
like those don't really. What's funny is like those moments, even if they look weird to me, like I just like look at it like, it's just part of this like bigger picture narrative that's going on. Mm-hmm. Even if this one little thing is like derpy, like that's what I call those moments, like derpy. Even if that's what it is, like the whole picture of it, even if it's my least favorite Star Wars film, it's still a good thing. Like this one little thing is gonna make me like want to go on a rampage against George Lucas and be like, burn his house down. This one Gungan offended me. Like, I don't know.
I call it jank. But I mean, this is the overall message that we're trying to convey here, right? It's just
enjoy it.
You acknowledge the flaws and move past it. You don't dwell on it. And as Choco says, you don't let it live in your head rent free. And I think what I'm trying to do when we're talking about these lightsaber duels is also point to the fact that these fights were never meant to be consumed frame by frame.
No,
you do not go to the theater.
It's preposterous.
Yeah, you don't go to the theater and watch the fight and ask the projector dude to stop it and go frame by frame so we can analyze it. No, you're watching it and you're consuming it. You're in the moment with the people in the theater, and however it makes you feel, it's how it makes you feel. I don't know why some people
have a problem with that. Actually, the idea of feeling. For some reason, everybody has to be like this logician. Is that the word? This super logical, objective reality receiver. Like everything is good or bad based on a set of rules that I don't know exist. And then like, who watches anything like that? And I guess if you're a critic, maybe you do have to watch things like that for like, to get some credit, like for having some good arguments or whatever, for teaching other people how to write better, potentially. If it's a really bad thing, maybe you can look at it that way in a more critical eye. But for the most part, when you watch like a Star Wars movie, or like these movies in particular, the scrutiny is bizarre. Because would you go back to the originals and go frame by frame, like 1 second of a frame over like the span of 10 minutes? See right there, that imperfection.
I did.
It ruined it.
I did as an exercise specifically for this point. And all of the fights, frame by frame, are horrible.
Well, yeah.
They're not even aiming at the person.
Right?
They're swinging above their head. Like,
they were only meant to experience it that one impactful time.
Yeah.
And then you get to rewatch it, yeah. But it's weird. I've always said, as long as it hits you the right way one time, like the first time, if it hits you the right way, it did its job. Yeah. I can understand if down the line you start noticing things. That makes sense.
I mean, that always happens. We have the Chanel boots kick that just became the Force kick. We have
Chanel boots kick.
I mean, like Luke flailing on that boat when he gets his lightsaber. Like there's things on multiple watches you'll start to notice all of these small details, but again, even if it is on a subsequent watch, you're still not going at frame by frame on everything.
Right. Yeah. Like nothing is supposed to be experienced that way. And I get why people pause and stuff. Like even I do. Like in my breakdowns, like, 'cause I look at my breakdowns as ways for me to explain to myself why I like the duels, kind of. Like I'm glad that people like them, and sometimes I'm surprised that people like them, but I make them and I'm like, all right, this is me just talking to myself, kind of figuring out what this all means. But it's like I paused just to show, like, here is what I think the intent is of like this part of the duel and what Luke might be thinking against like his opportunity against striking his father. Where like sometimes you want to do that to make a point, but like you do that just to kind of, look at the duel in a new way, but you still have that first initial reaction to it in real time, which is the only thing that matters. Like everybody else's analysis doesn't really matter. It's just that time that you watched it. And it surprises me because that duel that we keep going back to, the throne room, I have comments that they're like, I loved it on my first watch, but then once I saw these videos about it, I hate it now. It's trash. And I'm like, what? I'm like, nobody, like, I was like, how can you, if you enjoy it, and that's fine. Like, isn't that enough? I don't know. And
that's the difference between you and the rest of YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Your fight analysis is analyzing the fight and the emotion and the story, whereas others are analyzing metrics that don't matter,
like storytelling.
Yeah. I mean, should they? I don't know. I don't think
this doesn't make sense from a practical sword fighting standpoint.
Yeah,
space wizards.
Nothing makes sense. I mean, if it's terrible too, because like when you want to make an argument, sometimes like, and I like to compare duels because you have to. Like in Star Wars, you have to compare every duel to every other duel. Because that's what you do with Star Wars. Like there's nothing else to compare it to. But then you do that and people are like, well, you can't do that because we're not critiquing that other thing. But I'm saying like, well, if there's precedence for something that is being critiqued right now in a way that I find to be a little bit disingenuous, can't we go back to a similar instance of imperfection on that level and scrutinize it to the same way. And like people are like, no, you can't. It's not allowed.
Just like that.
I'm dead serious. They say no. Like you can't. They're like, we're talking about this movie. You can't say, well, what about The Empire Strikes Back? And I always bring up this one frame where somebody screwed up when they're on the platform in the exhaust pipe or the exhaust area of Cloud City, and Luke's lightsaber goes underneath Darth Vader's helmet.
Yeah.
For like 2 frames, and you can see it in the fight, but like it doesn't matter because his head wasn't going to get cut off right there. But if you break it down frame by frame, the way that these people do it, his head should have gotten cut off. So now, am I going to make like a whole new channel called like Why Irvin Sucks or something? You know what I mean? And like put red eyes at him? Like, I don't know.
It's funny because I mean the way you say that, and it's true. I actually did 2 videos where I actually did like bash and point these things out, and everyone in my comments was like, no, what Obi-Wan and Anakin were doing was a circle parry, and first of all, that's not a circle parry. When they were doing an Obi-Annie looking at each other. But I went through it and I pointed out a whole bunch of things. And then my next video was like, thank you guys. Thank you everyone that came to explain what was going on. There's continuity errors. There is choreography errors. There's things that need explanation from outside sources and other things that just don't make sense. But you guys like them. It's okay. We don't let those ruin these amazing moments. And all I ask is that you use the same energy for all of them. Where's the benefit of the doubt now? One thing that always takes me out is in the Obi-Wan versus Anakin fight. There's that midsection where they're like swinging on ropes. And climbing on stuff. And so that part always kills me because I'm always like, right, let's move this along.
But here's what's funny to me. So people assume that I hate the prequels. Oddly, I don't know why. And I guess there's this belief that if you like the sequels, or at least 2 of them, that you must hate the prequels. And I'm like, I know what? Like, I don't know where that began, but I feel like that scene is somehow charming now as like an old person. Like I'm like, I'm 34 and I'm like, I watch that now and I'm like, I kind of like it because it's just so ridiculous. It's like MCU level ridiculous sometimes when I think about it.
It is a little like watching Zorro like back in the day. Yeah,
like a mustache twirl from Kenobi. Like I feel like it could happen there.
No, I agree with you. The prequels are actually my favorite era. I'm just pointing out the stuff that I noticed, but
totally.
Again,
I think I pointed that out too. I'm like, if you guys can't handle this, how come you like this? And I'm like, they're in lava. Like, what if they like one bad move and they literally melt in a horrifying way, which kind of still does happen. But
also, like what antiperspirant are they using? Because they don't seem sweaty enough to be in the fight of their lifetime surrounded by lava. I mean,
well, at least Kenobi's using Form 3, so he has to be the calm guy, right?
Yeah.
So that's why he's super unsweaty, because he's so chill.
Or it could be just so hot that it's evaporating,
That's true.
Yeah, that is true. It's instantaneous.
So I mean, do you guys have a top 5 ranking for your favorite fights?
Ooh. If any of you guys have one ready to go, fire it off. I gotta think about that for a second.
Well, I don't have a top 5. I will say that my number 1 fight is Empire Strikes Back on Bespin. Number 2 fight is Return of the Jedi. Number 3 is actually Death Star 2.
Ooh, that's a good one. I actually do like that fight.
And number 4 would probably be just a fan servicey one, Yoda versus Palpatine.
Nice. Well, I guess in no particular order, because this is impossible. The ESB fight. These are the 5 then total 5. So ESB, Bespin, throne room battle for sure. Just because novelty factor and just me almost taking a dump in my pants, just being like, wow, what the heck is happening? And then after that, I'd probably say Duel of the Fates, just because of like it hit me the right way when I saw that movie. It's just it's so epic. Return of the Jedi for sure, Death Star 2, and then I love Luke and Kylo. That particular
such a powerful moment. People
misunderstand that duel to such a level that I can't comprehend. Well, not everybody. A lot of people actually don't, but like the people that do, I'm like,
the people that do,
I just want to hang out with
Luke.
you. Yeah, they're like, there are some things that I get people can have issues with, and I'm like, yeah, I can see why you have that issue, but why is the duel one of them? I'm just like, man, like you can have the other issues, but this was sick. Like, and it was the most I don't even know how to describe it. It was like surreal. It was so surreal watching it.
Yeah.
It was so emotional.
Hamill's performance when he looks up and he has tears in his eyes and he's like, I'm sorry, I failed you. And you're just like, oh man.
Yeah, like you can't believe that like his nephew's swinging at him like that, kind of. Like that's like how I always took it. Like even though he's like an apparition, he still can't believe the darkness that like has like come out of his nephew. And that's what's so cool about this freaking duel. Like Kylo was just so unhinged, and the whole movie is about him just like being like the puppet to his emotions, or the slave to his emotions. And again, here's a duel playing out in that theme again, where he lets a figment of his imagination, if you will, play in his emotions to his own demise, where everybody escapes and he's a failure again. And it's just like, oh my god.
Wait, Rian Johnson, specifically taught, because I always kind of speculated on why Luke had the blue lightsaber there, but it is confirmed by Rian Johnson that decision was because Luke is specifically here to troll Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
And we got to see, his reaction, Kylo Ren's reaction when he saw the blue lightsaber in the previous movie. That's mine. And so he uses it. He makes himself look, because Luke even looks different. He looks younger.
Yeah, I love when people describe him. They're like, and then we got Rogaine Luke. Like, yes, it's such a funny way to put it, but like, I mean, he just looks like mid years Jedi Master Luke with a big belt buckle. That's great.
Yeah. No, that's a solid list. If I have to go through mine, it's Empire Strikes Back, Bespin, of course, because the Luke that went into that fight was the one thinking it's the greatest warrior that wins, and that's why he lost, and that's why. I just love that, and all of his training and his failure at the cave and all this stuff. Then I go to Return of the Jedi Luke, where we get to see him on that balancing, that knife's edge, where he's, I'm not gonna fight you, and then and tries to hammer them to death, and then I'm not gonna fight you again, and then nearly hammers him to death. But
yeah, he totally wouldn't do that to anybody that has a conflict of light in them.
Yeah,
but I mean, that fight was the echo of his failure at the cave, and that's why I love it so much. And then after that, I go to Duel of the Fates. Even though this movie, Phantom Menace, I love the Phantom Menace. Even though it didn't have a clear antagonist or protagonist, I still can't stop thinking about
Yeah, you know what? You're totally right. I asked somebody that question the other day at work. We were talking about Star Wars, and I was like, you know what's funny? tell me who the main character is in the Phantom Menace. And then we were like trying to figure it out for a while. And then I used to watch Red Letter Media or whatever. So like I knew about all those videos, even though I loved the prequels. I was like, whatever, it's so funny to watch. And I asked him the same question of, I was like, describe a character from that movie without talking about what they physically look like. And then for some reason, it just like had us in stitches because we were trying to do it. And then I finally realized, I was like, we can only really do Qui-Gon Jinn. So
I'm not familiar with Red Letter Media, but I know it makes sense.
They're like the OG haters, and then and then now I call them the new crop, or the sequel haters are kind of just doing a very similar thing.
They're the first order of
yeah. This is the first order, and like the Red Letter Media is the Empire. But they did it hilariously, which was like even if you love those movies to death, you can watch those and like laugh. Like they don't try to make you feel like, at least I didn't take it that way. They don't try to make you feel like a stupid idiot because it's so over the top that you're like, yeah, this is just like a satire. So
no, that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, just the way that like I said, that fight hit, especially seeing it for the first time. Also, I mean, we are all in the same age bracket, so we're roughly the same age seeing it, and obviously it hits very specially there. Doesn't matter that Obi-Wan didn't use force speed to get through to help out. It's all good.
Yeah, he could have, huh?
He would have arrived panting.
You know what's funny? I remember owning so many Darth Maul lightsabers growing up because like I kept breaking them. And they were those like maybe they still have those now. Those like ones that like slide out. Like if you swing it real quick, like all the little pieces that are like inside of it like slide out into one long lightsaber. But man, I was obsessed with Darth Maul because of that scene. Like, and the dude did nothing. Like he just kind of was a badass in the movie. But I was obsessed.
He did come back to be an amazing character. Actually,
a
podcast episode specifically on Maul that's going live on Friday. This episode.
Oh, nice.
Friday. But and then after that fight, I got the Obi-Wan Anakin fight because there was a lot of emotion behind that fight and what it did for the franchise and setting up Vader.
Oh yeah, I can't believe I didn't say that one. All right, top 6.
And then number 5 for me is the throne room fight, because like the special unity of Rey and Kylo Ren fighting together, being on the same page, being two halves of the same whole, yet so diametrically opposed to each other's stances and goals without knowing it. I just thought how that story played out was so good of them like, I'm certain that you are going to join me.
Yeah,
all of them
it's great.
Believing that, and the fight made it seem like that, but it was never that.
Yeah, I love that they both go into that, both going, you're gonna help me. And it's just it's true, but just it's not going the way you think. Like the trailer says, it's the exact opposite. Such a cool scene. Also, one of the coolest, I have to say, that last bit of death in that scene where he just turns the lightsaber on and off is without a doubt one of the coolest things that has happened in all of Star Wars in my mind.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Like it's so cool and it's not over the top. It's just quick over. There's a bit of smoke and they don't like relish in it too long. But I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they just showed that in this movie. Like people are like, these movies, they're not violent at all. I'm like, did you just see a dude get cut in half? Some guy go into a shredder and explode into a billion pieces.
Literally,
and then this other guy
guy's head off in that fight.
Yeah. But my entire theater cheered when that happened.
Oh, same.
Oh yeah. This actually, The Last Jedi, which is now my favorite Star Wars film, it recently overtook Empire on my last. So the second to last of my podcast episode was The Last Jedi, and during that watch through and discussion, it actually did bump up. but that film had the most moments in my that I've experienced of any Star Wars film where the whole crowd is cheering at certain points through the film.
Yeah, same. It's just so, yeah, that's why, like, I don't know how to understand the online reaction or if it's even real at this point. I'm like, is it, are any of these numbers real, or is like everything online part of this like
deep state
wilds? Yeah, is it the QAnon conspiracy? Did Trump do it? What's that? I don't know.
I mean, we should probably we are getting into that territory now. You know, the state of Star Wars YouTube and the fandom, like it's interesting that like throughout the entire sequel trilogy, in my theater experience, at least personally, people have largely enjoyed it, you know, cheering throughout very important story beats or climaxes. And I came out of it enjoying it. People were like pumped and talking about it as I walked to my car, and then I get on the internet like maybe 30 minutes later and I get home and I'm like, wow, really? Like after I did my review, because I was pumped. I loved it, and I did my review and I was like, this is the best since Empire Strikes Back. I posted my review. I looked at Twitter and I was like, what's going on?
Oh, see, you know what? So like at that moment, I was so tapped out of like that area, like, or that like sphere of like onlineness, like when TLJ first came out, that all that I saw were positive things coming out about it. I didn't see like the Rotten Tomatoes meter for a little while, and then I finally started seeing, like maybe a month after it came out, and I was like, what? And I had like one friend that was like, yeah, I don't know, like it seems like Mark Hamill can't really act or something like that. That's what he said. Like, he didn't really like get like mad at, like he wasn't like mad at the movie. He's just like, I don't know if he can really be in front of the camera anymore. Like that's like where it went to pretty much. But then I started reading all that crazy stuff happening, and I was like, what? And it kind of is the reason I started the channel.
Yeah.
So.
I walked out, the movie ended. I looked over at my buddy sitting next to me, like, man, people are gonna love this movie.
Oh jeez. Well, you know what's funny? Like, I think some people genuinely did just decide to hate it after seeing a lot of information saying that you should, kind of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if all of a sudden liking something makes you feel bad, then maybe you're just gonna start like not liking it just so you don't have to, like, I don't know. Like I feel like that happens here and there with like
yeah, definitely.
Friends. They're like, oh, nobody likes this. Well, I'm not gonna like it either. I don't know.
Well, it's the reason why people online are called influencers. Like that's that's what it is. But it's okay though, because Dave Filoni has already retconned the sequels using the World Between Worlds.
Oh yeah. Not only that, he absolutely did not say on the audio commentary of season 4 that it's not time travel. He definitely didn't say that explicitly.
All of these like theories that are coming out in favor of retconning in some way.
Yeah.
You know,
people aren't even saying what they actually mean correctly. What they really mean is erase. But retcon is okay. We can recontextualize. But I'm okay with that. But erasing, no.
It's funny that they're doing this unironically. Like they claim that the sequels break Star Wars so much that their attempts to retcon the sequels are actually lore breaking. Like Palpatine accessing the Virgin Scatter and alternate timelines and just all of this stuff. Like, Choco, I know you wanted to say something on this subject in particular, but like, it's so weird how some people hate so much that they're willing to break Star Wars to hate it.
Well, what is the veil of the Force even a real term? I keep hearing that thrown around. I'm like, I can find no information.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, that's
exactly. So I'm like, so that's the terminology being used for this retcon timeline thing, and I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't exist in canon.
Yeah, anyway. There's only a few. There's only a few names for it. There's the World Between Worlds, Virgin Scatter, the Nether of Unbeing, and I guess like the study of it in the text, which was the Chain Worlds theorem. But
Yep.
there is no veil of the Force.
Yeah, I was like, where did this name come up? Like who made it? And honestly, it's actually really frustrating how many of these videos come out, because you're just like, Jesus, like they get hundreds of thousands of views, and people are believing it. And then when Dave Filoni just dropped some new information recently, he's like, or whatever, just got shared on social about them not retconning anything. Now all of a sudden people are like, really? I'm surprised, disappointed. Those guys weren't telling the truth. I'm like, come on. Like, if you like, you guys have seen that circle or that pyramid of disinformation, right? On Twitter, like they specifically geared at Star Wars. It's hilarious. It's like a pyramid.
I haven't, but so I watched a video from this guy called like Geeks and Comics or something.
Yeah, Geeks and Gamers.
Geeks, yeah. And I was laughing hysterically while watching the video, because his source was a random article on a random website, and he goes to that website in his video, and that was referencing a different YouTube video by another creator, and you're like, the hell?
Yeah, dude, it's so funny you say that. It's literally I called it an information paradox. It doesn't have an origin. Like one day in a bubble somewhere, the idea of this all began, and it all leads back to nowhere. Because if you go to one of those websites, it does go to one of the YouTube channels, and then the YouTube channels goes back to this different website, which also references this other YouTube channel. But those two YouTube channels work together, talking about the same subjects. So then you realize it's really just this kind of core group of people that are influencing a lot of people in a way that's really weird.
Can you imagine though, like if you have like 5 or 6 people, and then between the 6 of you, you are able to generate millions of views. I mean, it's ingenious, yes, if it wasn't disgusting. It reminds me of a book I read called Trust Me, I'm Lying. And it's about media manipulation of like the guy, that's literally what his job was. And he would do things like hire a porn star to do a photo shoot. He was one of the creative people for American Apparel. So he'd hire a porn star to do a shoot, take a few of those pictures, and then have one of his interns leak it to the press. So then that goes viral. They just got a commercial that advertises all of their stuff, and they paid a fraction of the cost. And it's, I don't know, it's just fascinating to me. But for anyone watching this podcast, no, nothing's being retconned through the World Between Worlds. It doesn't even come close to making any sense. You hear Rey in the World Between Worlds.
Well, what's funny,
you hear her.
Did you happen to catch my debunking video on that?
We did.
Yeah, I was just like I know I don't want to go into determinism and all that kind of stuff, but with that aside, it's just one timeline, and it's so clear because of at the end of season 2, Ahsoka does what she did at the end of season 4.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Like that's the beginning and end of the whole argument. You know, like it's still a straight line, but it's just like it's like one string that's in a knot, and like that's the best way to describe it. So,
and the funniest thing to me about that whole thing is it all hinges off of whether or not Grogu is, or whether or not Ben is Luke's first student,
which is absurd. And
you're like. The show is ongoing. He could leave, or like it's such a wild concept. The comic that they're referring to of Ben saying he was the first student isn't saying that he's the first student.
It was among them.
Well, I have a theory for what's going on. So like we already introduced the Proto Snoke, right? So I think that Grogu's gonna eat after midnight and get wet, and then he's gonna turn into Snoke, and that's actually the first Snoke.
Red light.
That's actually more plausible than these theories.
And then he gets put in a jar. No, but yeah, I don't know how people make sense of it. It's more of one of those things too, fueled by it's easy to get wrapped up in your own anger, right? Like when you're just like frustrated. So if you already hate something, you're going to be drawn to more videos or things that confirm the thing that you don't like. It sucks. Yeah. And that like the thing you really want will happen. So like they just like prey on a false hope of something based off of hatred. And it's like a drug, you know? And it's almost like watching spoiler videos or something where you get sucked into this mindset or something, or this feeling of like, oh yeah, I agree with this guy. I hate this so much. I'm just going to keep binging all this stuff. And all of a sudden you start thinking like them, and then everything sucks. And like all of a sudden a fight that you didn't think was that bad, you hate because you watched it for 11 and a half hours.
Yes.
Being scrutinized. So I don't know.
What makes me like an ex-girlfriend, you know?
What's that?
It's like thinking of an ex-girlfriend where that thing that was cute for all these years, like after the breakup, you're like, it's so annoying. She used to do all this stuff. And then
imagine having to go through your past relationships frame by frame.
Oh God. Yeah. Let's definitely, imagine like that. That's how people are treating it.
Yeah.
That's a funny analogy. But I'd say that's really accurate too, to be honest. The emotional reaction, which, you know, like to be fair, I we all lived through the prequel backlash, but thank God there wasn't maybe there was a lot of social talk stuff going on, but I wasn't doing it back then. I had like instant messenger, I think, or something like that. But
yeah, it was there.
I heard some stuff about people being mad about it, but not really. I had like tons of Coke cans of all the characters. I had all the toys. I had the N64 pod racing game. It wasn't until I was like late in high school that I realized that like people hated these movies, but it still wasn't the same.
We didn't have Twitter back then.
Yeah,
but
it didn't seem to be boinked over my head.
If you fancied yourself a netizen back then, you know, at the advent of AOL and social media, then was message boards.
Yeah, I used IMDb.
Filled with hatred.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you know what? You're right. I would go on IMDb a lot and talk to, or like have paragraphs on there. So I guess it's kind of similar.
Yeah.
But it wasn't at least people were at least writing, and they had unlimited amount of, you know, characters to work with. Whereas Twitter is just like, I have 16 characters, so I'm just going to say the worst thing possible and make everybody mad because I hate something.
Yeah, that was
like, I mean, I had a little bit different experience because I loved the prequels when they came out, and I was convinced.
I did too.
I was convinced that I was the only person on the planet that enjoyed them.
Yeah, like I felt that way.
I was in a sphere of hatred, in regards to them, and I was like, okay, I just won't talk about things with anyone.
Yeah, it's funny. Like now, it's one of the most heralded aspects of the mythos, like the whole thing, like the prequels. Honestly, if I'm honest, now the prequels, in maybe because of the Clone Wars, has like the biggest fan base.
It does.
And maybe that's also because a lot of OT people just are no longer with us on planet Earth. But anyways, you know, in general, there seems to be like so many prequel fans that you could just never have assumed existed back then because of the volume of the hate, kind of, just for a little bit, you know. But
I also think that has largely to do with Disney too, and people will be hesitant to admit it. Disney has brought in so many new fans, and Choco talks about this a lot, and Justin keeps a counter of how many times you talk about it. he was introduced to Star Wars through Lego Star Wars, I believe. Right?
Interesting.
Was that Lego Star Wars? And then
my first Lego Star Wars was this year.
It'll be our first as well, I think. But you know, there are fans who got introduced through the sequels, fans who got introduced through Lego, through prequels, and then fans who got introduced through Clone Wars and Rebels. So so even if you had this batch of prequel fans, you will have fans added on top of that of Clone Wars by proxy, because that is a prequel era show, and somewhat of Rebels as well. But if you grew up on Clone Wars, if you are a fan of Star Wars from Clone Wars, then you're lumped in with the prequel fans as well. So I think that's largely where it comes from.
Yeah.
I mean, also it by far has the greatest volume of easily accessible content.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's good content too, thank God. But yeah, it's just unfortunate too, like, just to think about just trying to put things above others at this point. Like I keep coming back to this, like, being a cycle of like hate with, you know, the prequels and now the sequels. And it's just like, just give it time, and there'll be plenty of things like the Clone Wars that come out where, you know, people will grow up with that, and then all of a sudden, like, they've already grown up with the sequels and they've already been fans since the beginning. So to them, nothing's been an issue, and this is just making the story even deeper. And it's like, who the hell are these weirdos that are like, you know, 30 hours of content on, like, just hating something to such a degree and trying to make you feel like you should feel stupid for liking it. And it's like, wow, this is Star Wars, and like, it's just about feeling hope and fun and watching some lightsaber duels, and there's some morals in it. And yeah, like, I don't know, why so angry? I don't know.
And you know, that's primarily why we're doing what we do, because we do have to change the conversation around Star Wars. And I think I presumably I could speak for all of us when I say it sucks that this fandom is chalked up to, you know, nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. I hate that meme.
Yeah.
But it's also true.
Well, it's true in a funky way that I've noticed. There's so many tribes.
Yeah.
And I always get weary nowadays, you know, like, I've definitely been part of groups, especially in my early days of my channel, like associating with like just particular subsets of fandom. And now I just try to avoid that, because it can just lead to a lot of fighting. Because there's always going to be somebody with a different, you know, no, that's not good, this is good, or what you liked isn't what I like. And if you don't conform to this like group, you know, you're not X, Y, or Z. Like, you know, it's just like whatever that group has going on. It's just like exclusionary.
But it's kind of funny though, because and I can tell that you're kind of the same way. But when someone lists their ranking of like the films, and it's wildly different than my own, that's the person I want to talk to the most.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, and I that's one of the bases where I started the High Ground podcast, where I have grown to love certain things more, or I see it from different perspectives, because I always have people on that absolutely love that topic. Mm-hmm. I personally, for a long time, the very bottom of my list was Rogue One. And after doing that episode with Sunflower Stardust and Flowducks, it bumped it up, because I can see it from, I understand what they love about it, and I can appreciate that. So the same way that, you know, watching a bunch of negative YouTubers and things like that can lessen your joy, mm-hmm. Listening to positive ones can increase it. And why wouldn't you want to increase your joy? Why wouldn't you want to enjoy things more?
There was a great example of that recently with Dave Filoni in one of those roundtable Mando docs of from season 1. He was just like casually talking about Duel of the Fates and kind of just talking about what it really meant, like in George's mind, and this is the duel about Anakin's soul, and like he's just going into this thing that like you're like, oh my god, and it just blew up. I remember I made a video about it, like Star Wars Theory made a video about it, all these everybody made a video about it, and like everybody just loved the Phantom Menace for like 24 hours. There was nobody that wasn't a fan for that day. It was like, heaven on earth. But it was just funny, like you get this new perspective even from somebody inside Star Wars, and all of a sudden a whole bunch of people appreciate it more.
Yeah.
And you never see it the same way. You can't. And people need to allow that to happen. And people aren't regarding the new movies. They're set in stone bad. And I'm like, that is not the case. 20 years from now, we can see what's going on.
I mean, it's just how the Clone Wars changed, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. When you watch Revenge of the Sith now, and you're at that scene where Palpatine's unlimited power, and then you can see off in the distance, you're like, oh, Ahsoka's sensing this. This is just all kind of creating this large, bespoke image of the overall Star Wars universe that you didn't have before, and I'm looking forward to when the sequels has that moment with Ahsoka, Rangers, and Mandalorian, and possibly even Book of Boba Fett, leading up to it, to the sequels, and giving everyone that kind of bridge that they need.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely needs. I'm the first to admit, and people think I won't admit this for some reason. I'm like, yeah, there's totally opportunities to flesh out things. Huge thing for me, Knights of Ren. Flesh it out. Like, I need more than just a comic series. Perhaps they become an aspect to one of the other tales where some bounty hunters or something have to fend off a group, and it happens to be them. Like, who knows? Or like a criticism I always had of Revenge of the Sith is I was like, we get no Clone Wars. Like, there are Clone Wars in it, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of quick. Like, it's half of the movie, but not really. It just kind of it's at the end of it. We're like, all right, so we'll never know what happened, really. Actually, then that Clone Wars came out, and I was like, I was actually a lot older, but I was like, yes, now we can actually kind of like see the Clone Wars. And now when I watch the prequels, there is no gap in anything in my head. Like in an instant, in one instant, I see the entirety of the Clone Wars flash before my eyes, and Revenge of the Sith begins. So,
well, I mean, something as simple as Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship. They had no relationship in the movies, not really. I mean, we see them banter at the beginning of Attack of the Clones, and then Obi-Wan goes on his separate mission. Next time we see him, it's years later, and Revenge of the Sith. But yeah, watching the Clone Wars and seeing, them go through a bunch of stuff together, go through them being captured by pirates and chained to Count Dooku together. I love that.
So many Dooku altercations.
When he's
it's so funny because then they're like, we meet again, Dooku, and I'm like, what time is this though? And what number are we on?
I'd kill you both if I wouldn't have to drag your bodies. I love having that stuff fleshed out, and that's why I love how broad this universe is getting with all the books and comics, and I love that now all of this extra content counts, because before, George Lucas made it clear, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do.
Regarding like the books, the EU and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But now these things all matter. Like, we got Cobb Vanth on screen because of a small passage in Aftermath. Have you looked into the High Republic or anything at all?
Oh, dude, I read Light of the Jedi. That was fantastic. That was a wild book. It was a quick read because I do like the Audible with the book. So like, it's like somebody's reading it to me, but like I'm just sitting there reading along with it. Just, I don't know.
I do.
It's just easy. It's soothing.
Same thing.
Dude, it's soothing. I love it.
But it also like you're reading and watching a movie.
Right, yeah. I'm like seeing it in my mind. Yeah, it's a weird phenomenon, this Audible book reading thing. But I'm doing it with the Silmarillion right now too. What a tough book to get through.
That is a tough one.
But yeah, Light of the Jedi was so cool, and brought some interesting Legends things back into the fold. But felt like such a good, refreshing breath of fresh air after what I consider to be books a little too forced to be contained within the limits of what's currently existing in canon. Like I didn't, if I'm being honest, I didn't really like the Thrawn novels that much. I haven't finished, except for the first one I liked a lot, of the new era. I haven't finished the Ascendancy book. That's on my back burner because once Light of the Jedi came out, I was like, no, I'm reading this right now, and I'm doing this in like one day. But yeah, like a couple of the other books, like really were great. Like really made it feel like things do matter. Like the Cobb Vanth thing from the Aftermath trilogy. Like, hey, I love Cobb Vanth. That whole scene, I had like a bromance with him online for a while. I was like, anything with Cobb Vanth, hell yeah! Like just put him in every episode. I don't care what he's doing. But I was just kind of like, thank God they're actually gonna now stick to this plan. And this isn't to get negative on The Rise of Skywalker, but like if you've seen my videos, you know my perspective on that film. Yeah. I watch it like a Saturday morning cartoon versus like a super perfect ending that I wanted, I guess, if I'll put it that way. But yeah, I don't know.
So that's one thing I'm excited for, because, you know, like I said, you know, my and I apologize, Pep, because I feel like I keep mentioning the High Ground podcast.
No, High Ground inspired this one, because as you were changing the conversation around, like, you know, all of those movies and characters, I was trying to change the conversation around news, the news cycle. Like everyone's trying to bash on the High Republic. I'm trying to just like enjoy Star Wars. So High Ground is very much part of the genesis of this.
It's interesting,
show.
People
Absolutely.
bashing on the High Republic, because for the most part, one of the channels I know that vehemently dislikes the sequels had nothing but good things to say about the High Republic.
That's good.
And people in his community are like, how dare you? And it's like, yo, it's because it's a good book. You don't let something that disappointed you stop you from allowing yourself to enjoy something. It's bizarre. It's like I guess an analogy would be like if you had a really bad date or you got dumped and then you never went out and dated again. Like you're not going to do that because you had one bad experience. Really? Okay. Like, why? I don't know.
Choco has a good analogy for that one.
Yeah.
An inappropriate one, I think, but no, I just love, because I saw all this stuff about how, oh my goodness, it's all SJW propaganda and all this stuff. And I saw a video from that same person, Comics and Geeks and Comics or whatever. And he was like, yeah, this is terrible. And if you're a white man, you'll hate this. And I was like, that's super weird. Now I have to watch this. I apologize for supporting you in this way. But he watched the trailer for it and was like, oh, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Like, so you haven't, because it was funny because the book hadn't come out yet when this video went up.
It's funny because I know the exact video you're talking about because I watched it. I was just like, come on, this has been the same. He makes the same thing over and over where like he doesn't know what he's talking about, unfortunately, and he just gets angry and tells you they hate you. These people that wrote this book, they hate you, and like the people believe him. It's unfortunate because none of that SJW, which is just nonsense, that buzzword. It's ironic. Star Wars is socially just. It's about social justice inherently too. It's just like, what are we talking about?
And inherently, what is wrong about social justice?
Yeah, and then they're like, people have purple hair, and I'm like, wait, well, it's an alien environment. It's a lot of different colors here. Seems reasonable that there would be, variations without there being a malicious intent or some other intent behind it, other than people are just making aliens look different because it's Star Wars. But yeah, I've seen people.
Amazing villain. I'm so stoked.
Yes.
Say that again.
Marchion Ro.
Yes.
Light of the Jedi.
Did you read it or do Audible?
I do audiobooks as well.
Nice. Yeah, I love the voice of Marchion Ro. It was creepy. Mm-hmm. Oh man.
I kind of picture Malkovich doing it, but if he was younger.
That's amazing. I don't know if we're like doing spoilers on that. Should we avoid that? Any spoilers for
we've done
Light
our
of the Jedi?
Show on it already. So,
you've already done it? Okay. Yeah. I also love that book just really hammered home that the sequels aren't going anywhere. Yes. In a few ways. The Tekkas.
Yeah.
But it also made the history of the Tekkas now intriguing. Like now I'm like, I knew nothing about these guys before, besides Lorsan Tekka being a member of the Church of the Force, and whatever that was going to be, if it was ever going to be a thing. And now he has a heritage that dates back in such a mysterious way to like proctors of the prospectors of like hyperspace lanes and stuff. And I'm like, this is insanity.
But then it makes sense of why he would have this weird knowledge of, where these ancient temples might be. And
like maybe, who knows, maybe they all are innately like a bit connected to the Force, like a heightened awareness, because of the Navigator or whatever.
Yeah. Mari Santa. Yeah. It's awesome. I got to hopefully you'll be doing the same thing with Into the Dark, and maybe we can have that
if you guys want to talk Into the Dark after I read it, I'm actually the most excited for that because of the Drengir. I need to know what the hell is happening, and I need to know what that place is and why Snoke is there. Like eventually I need to know all of those things. I know this book's not going to do it, but the fact that they're going there, I'm just like, yes.
So yeah, I mean, we can definitely have a $5. I mean, I still have to confirm with Meg.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you guys. Well, whenever that comes out, though, I'm not sure when it comes out.
We'll have a party.
Yeah, I'll break my hiatus for you guys to the little podcast because my kids are asleep at 8, so
yeah, so
I won't be juggling.
The plan is, as we did with the Light of the Jedi, is that we're going to do a roundtable on it on the Saturday of. So next week, it comes out on Tuesday. That following Saturday is when we have to have it done. I mean, that's not a challenge at all. I mean, the first one I finished in that night.
Nice. Efficient.
Yeah, and like everyone was like, what the hell's going on here? When I posted my TikTok, I was just like, so I finished Light of the Jedi, like at and yeah, so if you definitely the invitation's going to be out there for you if you want to join the roundtable for Into the Dark.
Appreciate it. Yeah. No, like I'm so pumped for that book. She might be my favorite author right now. Doing Star Wars, I think. I agree. I mean, Soul's good. But to me, he's more of the comic style guy. But he did a great job. I love Light of the Jedi.
But Claudia Gray has not missed. And does not. I love Timothy Zahn, but Timothy Zahn books feel like Timothy Zahn books, if that makes any sense. But Lost Stars doesn't feel like Master and Apprentice, which doesn't feel like Leia Princess of Alderaan, which Leia Princess of Alderaan does feel a little bit like Bloodline, a little bit, but not quite. Bloodline is still a political thriller more than anything else.
Yeah.
And so everything she does has been incredible, but unique, and what that project needs. And so she's my she's that's why I'm interested in it.
Yeah, I'm just so curious because she gets the Force, man. Like she has some sort of special awareness about like the Master and Apprentice work or whatever. That was something else. So yeah. I don't know. Lost Stars is great. I remember reading that a long time ago.
We definitely
was that like
need
2014
her.
when that came out? 2015?
Yeah, I mean it was before the Force Awakens, I believe. Yeah, right before it.
We definitely need Claudia Gray on Dyad in the Force.
I'm gonna try.
I'm expecting you to succeed. You know, one of these, like just like with Daniel, I'm expecting your message like, guess who we're interviewing on Saturday. I'm like,
yeah. So we had Daniel Jose Older on this podcast 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Who is writing the new High Republic Adventures comic, and he wrote.
I think I read the first. Yeah, I read the first comic entry. Did he do that one?
No, that's
no. He wrote.
No, I think it's
Last
Kevin
Shot.
Scott.
Last Shot.
Okay.
And so yeah, we got him on there, and then who knows? Because he knows Claudia Gray personally. Like they both live in New Orleans and like get coffee. So I don't know. Maybe
that'd be amazing.
I'm not gonna try. I'm not gonna stop trying.
It's just a whole hour of you like, oh man, I don't know what to ask you. I'm just thankful that you're here.
If I can get to talk to her, I'm going to ask her to write a story about Obi-Wan and Satine and whatever thing happened with them.
Padawan Kenobi.
I know. I need that.
Coruscant Nights. Something like not too risky, but still spicy. So.
Mandalorian Nights, right?
As a community, what do you think we should, what we can do to be better and to move forward?
That's such a hard question because I think everybody needs to do something. I used to think it was really just one side, and what I mean is I don't mean one side's being like toxic or like racist or things like that and that nature in the fandom, but it's more like just don't pay attention to it first. If you're on the side that we like these things, stop paying attention to it, stop retweeting it, stop engaging, and then hopefully for the other people that are listening to a lot of this news that ends up not being true once, you know, it's finally solidified by Star Wars news or whatever, hopefully they can just start taking this now as like all right, maybe I should get out of this drama zone, and maybe Star Wars drama isn't the part of fandom we want to boost up, and maybe we want to go back to just supporting people that talk about Star Wars. I don't know. That's like what I think people need to do. Get back to just talking about Star Wars.
Yeah.
Don't talk about people who talk about Star Wars, because that's weird. You know, like a lot of it's like, oh, this creator made this video about liking this thing. I hate them. That's got to end, and it's just got to be. Everybody's just has to move on from wanting to dunk on somebody in some way. You know, and I'm guilty of this. Like I do it all the time. Like I see something I hate and I'm like, oh, I got to tell them what I know. And maybe we just all got to stop doing that, and like it'll just eventually fade. But I don't know. It's a tall order.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I think we're making large inroads in this regard. I used to dread, or I do to some extent still dread, by 2030 we will have gotten the Old Republic, and despite that there will still be someone who's arguing Rey is not a Skywalker, and it's a very real fear of mine, because I want to continue on into the dark, Rising Storm. I want to continue on and watch Ahsoka, Acolyte, Visions, all these new stuff. I want to move on already. Contrary to popular belief, if you're watching this, I don't want to be defending the sequels, but they're being attacked. So we need to defend. learn self-defense without the notion of an attack. So I think we are making inroads in this regard because, my comment section on my TikToks and on my YouTube videos have largely turned positive. And I'll let Choco speak on his behalf on this in that front, but I've been getting a lot more comments telling me that I used to hate these movies because I watched hate videos, or I rewatched the sequels and I love them now. And I think that much wasn't present when I started TikTok, and now that the bigger that we've gotten, the more positive we've been, and with more creators joining the fray, we have at least slightly shifted the conversation around that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that. I've definitely seen some of that too, where, it's not to, I guess, down on Tross, but some people are like, oh, because of that, now I like this one a little bit more, appreciate X a little bit more. But even myself, like the other day, I might have posted this on Instagram or Twitter. I woke up at like 4 a.m. and I put on The Rise of Skywalker because oddly, I find it the most rewatchable. And I put it on and I'm like, today's the day I love this movie. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense. 2 weeks ago, I made a video about why it's just okay, and that's about it. And now today I'm watching Kylo Ren slaughter people, and I think it's really cool. And like, I don't have to feel guilty about it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
No,
I think once people start hearing others talk about it without you feeling guilty about it, then we're open to like admitting that like they like some parts of it, which leads to liking some other parts, So that's cool that you guys are seeing that stuff, because I've been seeing that here and there too. Specifically for TLJ.
Yeah.
So it's funny.
Yeah, it's funny because I, despite what people may say, I never considered myself a sequel defender. But I would say things like, I just always ended up, because I refuse to just agree with someone because they're sitting on the same side of the fence as me on a subject.
Yeah.
Because that's stupid in my like in my opinion. So I would even say something like, "Oh man, I really hated that the whole knife thing in Rise of Skywalker," and then someone be like, "Yeah, why would an ancient knife like be in the same shape?" And I'd be like, "Well, no, the knife isn't ancient. The writing is in ancient language, but the knife itself was created afterwards to mimic it." They're like, "Oh, but it's stupid that it took you to the right location." I was like, well, no, it actually tells you the location. Like when they translate it, tells you what shore to be on it. And like, this is a big metal structure. So even if it does shift, it'll still align with the correct location. And, so I find myself explaining things to where people are like, why are you defending? I'm like, oh no, I'm just telling you what.
Yeah, like this is what you can observe. This is what your eyes are seeing. The receptors are seeing this happen, and I'm relaying the information.
It's like, I just think that they could have had one less, kajigger that they're going to find. And then we would have had more time with the characters. That's why I don't like it. I think there was too many, like, go here to get this, to get this, to get this.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know. It's funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like I get what you're saying, where like you don't identify as like a need to defend the sequels. You just are perceived that way, right? Whereas like I kind of came in definitely defending TLJ just because I was like, what is this reaction? Like I just couldn't believe it. So my first video on the channel is just me rambling into a microphone. It's so dumb. Like I should just delete it. It's so horrible to listen to, and I cringe. But I'm like, what is wrong with people? This has already happened. Like, relax. But even as somebody that loves these movies, like I can still look at things and explain them and be like, well, yeah, that's stupid, or this or that, or like this thing was like a little bit weird, but here's what it means. And they're like, oh, you shill. And like it just goes right to that, like it goes to this like, you're the other. And I'm like, whoa, like Jesus. Like today I saw something about somebody was making fun of the fact that they used Force, or they used telekinesis on the duel on the Death Star 2 in The Rise of Skywalker, the wreckage. And, you know, it's like a visual homage to Anakin and Obi-Wan kind of stopping each other with the Force, right? In their duel.
Yeah.
But this guy's like, can you believe they used the Force to stop each other? Like, he was like, dead serious. I'm like, yo, man, like, hey, your name's Anakin Skywalker. So I just want to remind you that there is precedence for this happening. So it isn't really that out there. But like the other things that he was talking about, I'm like, okay, whatever. Makes sense. Like, not trying to be combative, but it's like, you try to just be like, why are they picking on this thing in that way when this already has always existed?
You know,
I don't know.
Even on that subject, when it comes to precedence, it doesn't really matter at this point. You know, everything that passes through the story group passes through the lore keepers, Pablo and Filoni. Whatever they learned from Lucas, it's in their head, right? And so when people look for precedence for something to exist in the Force, or when they make claims that the sequels broke the lore, I just like to say, or they just introduced something new that we didn't know about. So when you say that the movie broke Star Wars, and that very movie is a Star Wars movie, they're not breaking anything, they're establishing more.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because people ask the question, they'll go, well, why didn't they do it that back then if this was a viable option now? And I'm like, okay, why didn't everybody always do the right thing back in the day? You know what I mean? Like, is that the question you're asking me? Like, why didn't I tell my 10-year-old self not to go do that thing you know what I mean? Like, you don't know until you do it. So like you say, like, things breaking Star Wars, I'm like, this might sound crazy, but I'm just like, yo, if Jar Jar Binks didn't break Star Wars and is beloved now and has a show and had a little part in Aftermath, you know, he's relevant, and he just got a new toy made. If that dude survived all this, we're all good. Everything is okay. Like everything is gonna be fine. So I don't know. Just the hyperbole is too much. So
yeah, I love that you say that, because I mean, I think, in my opinion, I think that there's two things that we should do as a community, and one, learn how to communicate. Learn the difference between
objective and subjective.
Objective and subjective, between learn what an opinion is, and also understand that exaggeration and use of hyperbole oftentimes doesn't make your point sound stronger. It makes it wrong. It changes.
Yeah, you can't perceive it.
Yeah. If you tell me like, oh, this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life, and you're like, really? Like, the Emoji Movie exists. Battlefield Earth.
Well, yeah, and then there's movies that don't exist, which are the movies that are the worst, right? Like things that never were made. You can't even argue to hyperbole because you don't know what to argue about, or to even just say like, well, here's how I take it. You know what I mean? It's just a hot take. It's like it's either all good or all bad.
Yeah.
And so that's number one. And then the other thing is, because there's a source of I guess pride and identity among fans, because, you know, a lot of us hopped into this as when we were younger, which makes you emotionally attached to it, makes you want to protect it, and all this stuff. And I think the big realization is, you know, if I look at myself as an example, I've read 130 EU books. I've read all the canon ones. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen and I know a lot of Star Wars, and, you know, there can be someone who Rise of Skywalker is their very first movie. Their opinion is exactly as valid as mine.
Right.
I may have a more informed opinion, but there's no extra weight behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can understand that, and understand that you are only speaking for yourself, because so many times I hear, well, me and a lot of other people, me and millions of people believe this. Mark Hamill said this. Whatever,
oh God,
like,
yeah.
Stop it. You speak for you. Your opinion is your opinion. Tell me your opinion. That's cool. I will respect that. I respect you. Stop pretending like you have multiple personalities or whatever, and they all agree. It's weird. Your opinion is your opinion. Share your opinion. And,
right.
You know?
Yeah, the whole thing with like half the fandom disagrees, man. Like that kind of like approach is so bizarre because it just you're trying to give weight to your position of like something when all that you need to do is just talk and just be chill and be like, hey, I didn't like that, and here's why. All right, have a good day.
And the comments saying everyone hates The Last Jedi is especially funny when someone who likes it reads that comment and you're just like, well, that's not true.
Well, fun fact, maybe not fun. My first viewing, I didn't know what to think, and it was mostly because I went really like late, so I was like kind of tired. But I remember watching it, and I was like, this was an insane movie. So many things happened. I need to think about this, because so many things did happen, and it really wasn't until my second watch that I could officially say like, yeah, I like this movie or love this movie. Because at first I was like, Luke died? How does this end? Or, you know what I mean? Like I had that initial knee-jerk reaction. And then, I don't know, I just watched it the second time and I had this just feeling. I was like, oh man, how did this dude make this movie? Like this is like a finely, I don't know, it's like just so finely tuned on every level. And people are like, no, the plot's a mess. And I'm like, no, I thought it was too. And I'm like the extreme opposite of the people that do the nitpicking. I was like, at first, like, I don't know. But then it all gelled together for me. Even the stuff that I found a little bit boring, like some of the Canto Bites sequences where I was like, oh, this could have been like a minute quicker. All of it is like this, like really just neat bow. And I'm like, I don't get the gripe. Once it melded in my head, it's like, yes, this is so good. But the opposite kind of happened with the finale, unfortunately, where I was like, I don't know what to think. I still kind of don't, but I accept it. And if people talk to me about it, I'm not going to like be like, you're an idiot for liking this, because for all I know, like you said, that's their first thing, or it's their favorite Star Wars ever. And I can't understand why in their head, like, because I've only my thoughts. I don't know what makes it perfect to them, but that's literally true to them. What am I going to say? No, you're wrong. It's silly.
Yeah. And that's why I love it. I mean, in not next week, but the week after, I believe I'm doing a Rise of Skywalker episode on my podcast. And I can't, it's my, now that I've done The Last Jedi, it's my next most anticipated one, because I can't wait to see what points or what joy they brought out of it. I can't wait to experience that and then rewatch the film with that in my mind.
Yeah, I will say, people that have been pumped about Tross have helped me. Like, I think that's why I go through those days where I'm like, yeah, this movie kicks ass, you know? And it's just funny, like, because then there's a day when I'm watching it and I'm like, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But I love how you put it earlier of like, you can, you know, wake up and put it on or something like that, and it makes so much sense, because it's almost like it's a sandwich, you know. I love sandwiches. At lunch, you're running late, you know, you slap some bread down, slap some sauce on it, you know, throw your meat and cheese, and you're out the door. And sometimes you want a sandwich, sometimes you want a steak that you've marinated for 24 hours, and like, you know.
Yeah, it's like really high quality fast food, like Panera Bread. That's what The Rise of Skywalker is. It's really good to watch. Like, I'll be honest, like, visually, I love how that movie looks. At first, I was like, I don't know.
All of the movies are beautiful.
Yeah, well,
visually.
I had a hard time with some of the monochrome palette of, like, the blueness in the green tints in some places.
Yeah.
But then once I watched it in 4K, I was like, nope, this is awesome. Like, even the Mustafar opening, it was awesome. Like, the white quarters for Kylo Ren, just so visually interesting. For me, it always comes, like, the whole thing with that movie is like, I just wish it was 5 hours long so it could just breathe. Like, I just wanted so much, which is impossible. Nobody was ever going to be satisfied with the ending of Star Wars, honestly. Like, I feel like even if people are, like, you still feel sad that it ended. So the ending of something is always, like, a little bit negative, kind of. Like, you're a little bummed out that, like, that's it. So
yeah, it all comes down to one singular unfortunate thing, which is something that I hope that Choco and I, and especially you, Adat, are changing. Which is, one person hated it, and that one person was an influencer, and that caused everyone to shift their lens upon which they viewed the material.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we just have to become influencers ourselves.
Oh, we're trying. I know, it's so hard. I mean, you guys are, I mean, it sounds like you're killing it. I don't know TikTok well. But yeah, YouTube now, like, the whole landscape is just the hate brigade. So the competition is bizarre. Like, just trying to get yourself out there with a good message, it's like a risk, because you could get swarmed with 1,000 people just, like, hitting, like, does not recommend channel. And, like, if enough people do that to a channel because they're making positive sequel content, you can get screwed. Like, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I think TikTok does the same thing. You can say not interested on a video. I don't know if it actually works, but
yeah, who knows? But it's just like, man, like, people are vicious with this stuff.
I just know that there's more of us. There are more people who enjoy Star Wars than people who really want to hate it.
Yeah. And if people are switching their minds so quickly after, like, a year after the finale of, like, the final film, you know, I feel like in 5 years there's going to be a whole different crop of people talking about stuff online, or hopefully.
Yeah. And YouTube is rolling out slowly their new shorts. So I can start posting my TikToks on YouTube as well, because it seems like every platform is releasing their version of a TikTok. Yeah, it's a slow burn. It's just like Resistance. You know, after episode 6, after the first season, we are going to change the conversation around Star Wars. Every time we have new Star Wars, we are all going to celebrate. Do we have any final thoughts on the state of Star Wars fandom?
Personally, I think everybody will be a little bit happier if they all buy a Black Series helmet. I have 3 now, and I can positively say that my life is better. So just do it.
I would agree if I were a helmet kind of guy, but
yeah,
you know, to each their
they're
own.
Very large. My wife thinks it's crazy, but there it is in my kitchen right now.
I will just say there's so much awesome stuff coming down the pipe. I'm super excited. We like right now, Star Wars is the biggest, the most popular, and the most profitable it's ever been. It's crazy to think otherwise.
There's a lot of big. There's a huge channel right now that is perpetuating the idea that they are a destroyed IP, and I'm like, that what? Like, how?
Yeah, I've heard that they're destroyed. I've seen Kathleen Kennedy get fired like 30 times, but but like right now we have like 10 new projects that are coming down. I'm excited to jump into them, and and just enjoy it. Enjoy Star Wars.
Great.
Enjoy talking about what I love. And, the people that it's infectious. You know what I mean? Like, and we've already been able to build like a decent sized community based off of just having fun and enjoying things and discussing these things that we enjoy. And that's just going to continue. And I think right now, this is the time for us positive creators to be out here, because as soon as that pendulum swings the other way, I mean, we're really going to be the only source of content.
That'll be interesting. I just hope that all these platforms that are using like robotic that technology to figure out what to serve people to watch stop sort of being like, well, we're just going to push controversial stuff because it is scientifically known to keep people on like the page longer. If we can somehow get beyond that, like a lot of things will get fixed too. It's a huge issue.
A funny story about that. I actually just made a TikTok yesterday, I believe, because someone asked, like, why do you guys keep defending the sequels? And so I actually went through and made a short video actually showing the videos I've made. And I've only mentioned them out of my last 47 videos, and 5 videos the sequels were mentioned. And some people, 5 out of the past 47. And so people are like, oh, well, it seems more often. And like, okay, if every time you see someone speaking positively about it, if you come into my comments and like comment a whole bunch, they're going to show you more stuff about it. Like, this is
right.
You have done this yourself.
All right, so let's move on to our last segment of the episode, some fan question and answer. This is where we answer all of your questions that you've left on our various social media platforms. Go into it if you will. If you have a question, their username first and the question.
Trizical asked, do you know what happened to Kira after Solo? And I'm curious on what your guys' thoughts might be. And also, might we run into her in the Lando show?
I mean, I think that's the most logical thing, right? What happened to her, we don't know. But we do know she's with Maul now. In that time
she's
period.
Dryden, kind of, right?
And Lando seems to be the only show that I guess is in that time period. So she could be in that show. Maul could be in that show.
I feel like it's highly likely. Like she seemed so interested in being in Star Wars again, Amelia Clark.
Yeah.
So my guess is like she's like I feel like she'll definitely be in Lando. And be like the sort of middle enemy, but like remnant friend, where like she is the bad guy under the bad guy Maul, which would be interesting if Maul comes back in live action. But I think she would just be sort of the possible antagonist at this point to Lando, because he's supposed to be getting up to some smuggling underground dirty stuff too, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like they're gonna cross paths, and she's just this epic like leader of Crimson Dawn, or like the second in command now of Crimson Dawn. Plus she's like she can do Terras Kasi, so it'd be nice to see some fights, stuff like that. Who knows, maybe Maul gave her a lightsaber.
I unapologetically love that game, Masters of Terras Kasi. I am the master. If I pick Arden Lin, you're done.
I love that that's in the movie. It's so funny. I'm like, yes. Yeah, but I think she's dominating as a crime queen right now. That's what I think she's doing.
Interesting.
She's feeling not good about it though. She's like the Kylo Ren of the Lando series, right? She'll have a redemption.
I do have a question to pose to both of you, since I know for a fact Choco is not a purveyor of this idea. But Julia Christine 77 asks, how would you want Quirky Kenobi to be canonized in the Kenobi series? What's your dream scenario?
Wait, Quirky Kenobi?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that means. Is that like a
So in Clone Wars, the whole thing with Satine, she has a nephew named Corky in the Mandalore arc, and if you look at him, he does look like he was designed in between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Satine. So people say Corky Kenobi because they are just assuming that they had a secret love child.
Oh, I thought you were saying quirky, like no, never mind. I thought you guys were saying a different word. How would they deal with that in the series? I don't think they will. I think that's I don't think that'll ever be explored. I think it would be a can of worms.
That's a completely fine answer.
That's I mean, it could be, but I just thinking of how people react nowadays just to anything. It's either gonna clog up the story or not go the way people want and just distract. So I just can't imagine them minding that. I don't know. I could be wrong though.
I mean, for me, so the voice actor for Satine is supposed to be in Kenobi, so I think we are gonna get her, and she does look similar to the character. Whether or not, I don't believe Corky is a Kenobi personally, and I don't want him to, even if he is, I don't want it mentioned in the show at all, because I think, at least to me personally, it hurts Obi-Wan's character of, like, if he knows about having this family and it's just like, screw these people, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like he stands as this guy who has been devoted to his cause.
Right.
You know, Star Wars is all about the choices that these individuals make, and he has made his choice. And I don't know, I think
I do like the idea though of Satine. Like I haven't really kept up to date with news for the shows, but you know, the idea of him having flashbacks to his life, or like just those moments, are fascinating, because I'm not sure exactly what Kenobi will be up to in the series besides, you know, reeling over the loss of Anakin. So it'd just be interesting to see like him, like Anakin and her, like pop up in like moments of despair, but like having to tap back into the Force to, you know, turn to the light again, if you will, you know, not be overcome with grief or whatever.
Or what if they do the thing that they did in the novelization of The Last Jedi? Because that book if I'm not mistaken, it started with like an alternate universe of Luke if he had never left. Yeah,
it's amazing. It's such a. Have you guys I know you read it. So Pep, you read that?
Oh, which one?
It's the intro to the TLJ book. It's like a prologue that isn't even like part of the story really, but it's just an interesting take on like if Luke never went on his grand adventure ever.
No, actually, no.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's like it's basically him having a feeling of a pull to something that he can't put his finger on, and he's like almost a man full of regret. And it's like this weird inverse parallel of what he ends up turning into because he went on this journey for a little bit. It's a fascinating intro.
Yeah. I might make a video on that.
I think you should.
Do you have a question?
Yes.
A user question?
I actually have two of them, but for this one's Ollie Mincer, and he asks, "What is the rarest Force ability?"
I feel like I should know this. I should just turn around and go to my book. I mean, I feel like within the context of movie canon, healing, but it's arguable that some people think that like Kenobi was healing Luke after his Tusken Raider altercation.
And I think one of the reasons people believe healing to be rare is because they feel like, oh, well, then why wouldn't, there's just a couple of situations, but there's no reason to believe that it necessarily wasn't, just may have been in a different form, or like Anakin was never trying to learn how to force heal, so that it doesn't negate anything.
Yeah, the way I took it was like they never had access to those specific books in the Jedi Temple. Like they were only on Octu, so like the only place maybe where like you learn that exact technique maybe was just because of those 5 books or whatever. But yeah, like there's got to be something else that's like the most rare.
My mind went 2 places. One being just psychometry.
Yeah. I was thinking of Cal Kestis. I was like, I know Ray and him share.
Get out of here.
I was probing.
I got my Cal on my table over here.
But we know that psychometry is something you're born with or not, and you may have to be able to learn how to master it, but that inherently makes it rare. But also, in Legends, there was that ability that, Yoda had it where he absorbed the
Tuda Menace.
Yeah, Tuda Menace. What do you think?
Oh, an Attack of the Clones.
He's the only one that has done it in canon.
Is that not what the father used in
Yeah, is that considered a rare power, turning into a bat? We only saw that once in a bird.
Tuda Menace would be a rare one too. I mean, of course, we don't know if other Jedi actually have that knowledge or if they're just not able to do it.
Would you consider Similifaturas to fit under this umbrella, like the Luke Skywalker
projection.
teleportation?
I mean,
I feel like that's. I mean, it's always been in the book, but
it's rare. But I don't think it's inaccessible to people who can learn it, because Kanan Jarrus uses it in Rebels.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like at least for me, rare means like an ability that is not quite accessible and you can't just pick up a book and learn it. So like psychometry you're born with, that's definitely rare.
Well, in terms of inherent ability, maybe I've always been curious, like maybe there's something I don't know about this connection, but the Lothwolf and Kanan and their bond through the Force somehow is like either that's like a dyad kind of thing, or is that some sort of like you're born with this like connection to the souls of animals? Because like I've always been so curious about that connection, because like the Doom Wolf finishes off Kanan's kind of lessons for Ezra,
and Ezra was able to connect with animals throughout his entire run. So
so Kanan worked through that wolf.
Yeah.
Like is that what was happening? Kind of.
Well, you see, like connecting with beasts is a very standard curriculum for a Padawan. But I would venture to say that Ezra had a very keen sense for it. And he had like he almost had a large affinity for connecting to animals.
Yeah.
So when connecting to beasts isn't a rare thing, but I think perhaps an affinity for animals just naturally can be a rare attribute to have.
My hope is that whatever the rarest thing is, it's like super lame and has no like real application. Like the rarest ability is you can always tell when a TV is on in a house or something like that.
Oh, that'd be so funny. The rarest ability is like a highly practical issue. Like
she reached out to the Force and found out she left the stove on.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like everything I'm thinking now is so stupid.
I think psychometry would be our number one choice.
Yeah, I think that's it. Makes you want to go play Jedi Fallen Order right now.
Master Rids asks, who is your favorite weird alien?
Ooh. Lady Proxima. I know that's blasphemous because it's new era, but that is
weird,
one hell of a puppet. That is the coolest puppet I've ever seen in my entire life, and I'm obsessed with like the Dark Crystal, Never Ending Story. Like I love that stuff, and she hit that vibe in such a way that it blows my mind. So
have you read Afra 7?
I have not.
Okay, I won't spoil it.
Should I? Should I just? I have a free credit on my Audible.
I would say you can. Yeah, it's not necessarily. I mean, it is knee deep in the middle of the story, but I mean, there is a connection there that I think you would enjoy. But but definitely, if you are reading the 2020 Afra run, for sure.
I do have a couple trades of that. I actually stopped reading those, and then I have been invested in the new Vader run, which has been blowing my mind.
Which is why I feel Element is going to say I have Webbish Bog.
No, I'm gonna give that one to you. I think I'm gonna take the Rogue One routes and say Borgullet.
What an interesting weird alien.
The mind.
Why does
alien.
it know the truth? Like, just why? Have you ever thought about that? Like, there's a Saw Gerrera and he's just staring, right? And Bodhi's just there in a chair. Like, this thing knows the truth. Like, oh my god. If I was Bodhi, I would have pooped my pants and been like, all right, you can have whatever you need. I'm your slave.
Well, no, he was probably terrified in the chair. Like, I've seen enough anime to know where this is going.
What does he know? How did he even get that thing to listen to him? Oh man, so many questions.
Yeah.
So
you said yours was
I'm going back and forth. So if we're saying weird alien specifically, it has to be weird. Because like if you say your favorite alien, I gotta go with Dexter Jetster, because I just want to know that guy's life. I know he's in the witness protection program, and that's why he works at the diner, but he knows way too much. For weird alien, I'm going to have to go with the Exogorth. When you read from a certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back, there's a story that's told from the perspective of the Exogorth. And it's weird and bizarre, and they are these ancient creatures that have been there since the dawn of time. And like, they know,
like Lovecraftian horror.
It's so weird. Like they know what's inside of them. So this one, and they pride themselves on trying to cultivate ecosystems inside. And so this one is like a younger one and is excited, like, oh, I have butterflies. And everyone's like, those are Minox, you idiot. Like, it's such a bizarre story, and she like really cares for and considers the crew of the Falcon to be her friends. And even though they're only with her for a moment, like she still misses them. Like, so it's a really strange story, but
that's hilarious.
Just it makes me happy.
I like it. That's a good choice. I'm looking at it right now. Weird space worm.
But we'll say a special nod to to Eye of Weberspog because it's
honorable mention.
I really wish that probably would have been my pick if it was in the movie. I didn't know we were going possible cuts, but yeah, the fact that they filmed it and it didn't go in anywhere, I will always be like, God damn it.
Yeah, same.
But it would have been so fascinating to see this weird creature be like, it'll bring you to him. Yeah, I would have been like, whoa, okay, I'm in. I don't care how weird and stupid this gets. I'm in now.
I have
really should embrace the weird more.
I have a quick question for yes. Team Godzilla or Team Kong?
Oh man! All right, so I have to be fully honest. I have seen every Godzilla film of the new era.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan, meaning it's not that I don't like the movies. I just don't know anything about Godzilla. So I just want to root for Godzilla because I like Godzilla. However, I feel like there will be some sort of moral dilemma in this upcoming film as things go, and I will feel as I watch it, I will want to root for Kong. So I have a feeling that I'm going to be Team Kong in the end.
Okay.
Based off of nothing.
I will let you have that choice.
What happens if I'm right? Like if Kong wins, do I win something?
My respect.
Dignity, perhaps.
Nice.
I mean, I am Team Kong myself, only because of what we saw in the trailer, right? There's nothing in the history. There's nothing in the history of either of these characters that indicates that Kong would ever be anywhere in the realm of a fair match for Godzilla. Like, he would get stomped in pretty much every iteration. That's why I'm going to take this underdog route, but I'm also saying that Kong is going to die in this film. And that's what the makers meant when they said there was going to be a clear winner, because one of them's going to be dead. And yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the trailer right now. This looks insane.
I do have to ask the Team Kong persons, where does Kong hide in this hypothetical where Godzilla goes atomic bomb?
I think that is where he dies. I think his atomic attack is going to have something akin to a powerful EMP, as part of the blast. And so I think they're going to fight Mechagodzilla. Kong is going to wrap up Mechagodzilla so he can't do anything. And then Godzilla can detonate. And then everyone gets to feast on fried monkey for years to come.
Jesus. Well, at least we have food. I'm like listening to you talk about it. I'm like, I have no idea. I'm watching this trailer and people are exploding in houses and King Kong is fighting. Yep, there he goes. He punches him. This year. Wow, this looks pretty cool. Yeah, I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
There he goes. He's spitting blue fire. Nice.
That's just my final question for this kind of little debate, just because people see the atomic breath being parried or absorbed by the axe, but I'm like, no, a Godzilla can still explode. That's how he took out Ghidorah. But Choco, you said you had a question for the panel.
Yes, because I actually just posted a video to my TikTok, and I was asking people what their favorite lightsaber hilt was. So I am going to broach this. I already know your hilt element, but
if Ada doesn't know, it's Satele Shan's hilt.
That's true. No, you're not going to be tied to the color crystal though. So what hilt, what color, and what's your primary lightsaber form?
Oh, I guess I'll just throw it out there. Satele Shan's hilt, orange blade, black core, which is how I had it before I lost it in Sator. And I would mix Surisu with Vapad.
I feel like I can't answer now because that's pretty much where I was going.
go for it, man.
But the only thing I'd switch up is I like the curved-tailed Dooku.
Yeah.
Dooku style. I'm not a Sith. I just like the color red, so like maybe I could somehow cheat it. But the next best option is green for me, with a curved tilt. And I'd probably make sure I became a master of Form 3 Surisu. So that way I didn't have to do anything else. As long as if I could become invincible, then yeah, I think it should be okay. I can embody the true Jedi way.
Nice.
You know, no attacks, just calmly swinging my blade around for infinity while I get blasters put in my direction.
Myself, I love, we only see it briefly in the Clone Wars series, but Gunji's hilt, the little Wookiee.
It's beautiful.
Oh yes.
His hilt is beautiful. My lightsaber.
I think you can buy a replica of that.
My lightsaber color would be gold, which I know is a little reminiscent of Devoka. But I'm a big fan. And I'm so close with orange as well, like maybe like little orangish hue on it, because Jedi Power Battles was my thing. Plo Koon, that's his saber in that game. And the form I would use, at least in my head, no, the form I would use would probably be Form 2, Matashi.
The gentleman's form.
Interesting.
It's very, and hopefully I'm making I'm choosing this correctly, but as a drummer, I've always been very keenly in touch with the concept of the conservation of motion, and this just gentleman's form, using thanks to parry to find your opening, redirecting their weight and things like that, is something that would be up my alley.
That's so funny. I'm a drummer too. That's a really good way to put it. I was thinking the same thing with Form 3, because Form 2 and 3 both have the same, like, conserve your energy. Let the other person kind of put in the effort, which is like, I do skate punk drumming in like metal, like in a lot of
yeah.
You know what I mean? So I can go through a whole set and not sweat, or I can go through a whole set and sweat, but it's all about like being that precise conservation of energy. And it's like totally what you just said. It's such a good way to put it.
It might be fun to watch someone like use Ataru, but man, I'm too old for that.
Yeah,
but that's why I'm mixing Surisu with Vapad is you are defensive, waiting for them to make a mistake, but also using their darkness against them to make that mistake and push that mistake forth. So you're kind of like pushing the envelope while, retreating in the opposite direction.
So theoretical, somebody facing Obi-Wan, but is also a master in Surisu in Vapad, or Vapad, I don't know which one is the correct, but who do you think would win? Because I feel like that would just be an eternal struggle. like two
Surisu
Obi-Wans,
versus
but
Surisu?
one has Vapad.
Oh, if it was Surisu versus Surisu, but one had Vapad.
Yeah, like attached. I feel like,
I mean,
like I wonder if it would still leverage against a master of Form 3, if it would still end up in a stalemate. These are things I think about.
The person with Vapad would eventually win, but the fight would go on forever.
Yeah.
The only difference is using the opponent's emotion is, you would be empowered by it, but them being the calm like the Eye of the Storm, isn't going to give you much. So it's just like this weird battle of attrition.
Just imagine it's like captain versus captain. He's like, I could do this all day. Yeah, me too. That's funny. I just love thinking about like what combinations of forms could go up against what other ones, and like figuring out who would win.
Of course, we know what happens every time Obi-Wan went up against Dooku.
Yeah. Well, Dooku was a legend of the Force, you know? Well, I think what I read is that if it was just lightsaber to lightsaber, there's no Force involved, that Obi-Wan was without a doubt capable of just eliminating Dooku at that point in the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. But who knows? It's also from Wikipedia and other fan pages and stuff.
Well, there are Jedi Masters who have like vouched for Obi-Wan being like the master of Surisu. So if it came down to it, he probably was the prime Surisu practitioner in the whole order.
Which is why I loved how they touched on that in Master and Apprentice. Yeah. Of how Obi-Wan is like mad because Qui-Gon won't let him study different forms yet, and that's ultimately what saves his life and makes him so powerful.
Yeah. The tragedy of Qui-Gon, who I hope to be seeing in the Kenobi series.
I think they did confirm it recently, like in the past couple days, but I haven't looked it up.
So they did kind of confirm it in an exclusive, but the source does say, again, sources close to Lucasfilm. It has not been confirmed by Lucasfilm.
It's like a house around the block, like near the facility.
I heard around the corner.
Yeah,
Liam Neeson is in town.
I would love that though. This even if it's a disembodied voice, I don't care. Oh, man. I think it would have to be actually.
WandaVision is giving me that 70s voice.
Say
have you heard?
Oh,
Liam Neeson's in town.
Dude, I wish I could do that old school 50s voice, like that perfect, like the intros to the Clone Wars, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah,
that'd be so good.
All right, look, so we are running out of time. At Chat, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Do you have any closing remarks? Where can people find you? Anything? Yeah,
well, first, thank you both for having me on. It was super fun. I can't believe we're already out of time. It felt like it's been 5 minutes. So that's how much fun I was having. Thank you so much. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter at chat, AT chat, whichever way you want to pronounce it. All are acceptable. But that's the most correct. No, I'm just kidding. And then YouTube channel is the same. You can find it at chat or ATET chat. And then I have the most random name on Instagram, Admiral Piet Lives.
Yeah.
So find me on there because he does in my heart. And I will be. I make a lot of lightsaber videos and random thought videos and some analysis videos. So I might have something in there for you. And yeah, it's just been great hanging out with you guys talking about this stuff.
Absolutely. Choco, do you have any closing remarks?
No, other than check out at chat stuff. I've been following him myself for quite some time. And if you enjoy either myself or Elements content, then I think it'll be right up your alley.
Absolutely. And I would love to extend an invitation to the positive Star Wars TikTok community. If you make a TikTok, hit me up, hit Choco up, DM us, and we'll get you started. We'll get the ball rolling. Yeah,
this actually sounds really fun. I'll definitely be downloading TikTok. I think I'll probably go to sleep before I do that, but yeah, I'll be hitting you guys up on TikTok and probably making the most horrible video ever because I don't know what I'm doing.
I mean, all you have to do is just talk about Star Wars, what makes you tick, and the things that are passionate, or the things you're passionate about, and it'll come across. Just put hashtag Star Wars, people will start watching it. And
nice. I'll just call it like Star Wars shower talk. Just put the phone in there and just people will love it.
Absolutely, that'll work.
Yeah.
Bathroom videos do well.
I heard.
But in any case, we are out of time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of Dyad in the Force. That is the end. On to the next one. May the Force be with you. We are all the Republic.
We are all the Republic.
For light.
We are all the Republic.
For the light and life.